So hello everyone. Thanks for coming to the Hong Kong chapters. One of our sections is on how assistive technologies able to help and build an inclusive society. So today we are very glad we will have two speakers, including myself. So my name is Ernest. I'm the chair for the Catalyst 2030 Hong Kong chapters. And for this, I welcome everyone joining the sessions. And for today's sharing, we will also have Lamia. She will be sharing one of the most significant and latest inventions for blind people. And so for Hong Kong as a small place, we focus a lot in terms of how technology helps us to able to improve our work and also like how to help those people in need. And so glad that we're able to have a chance to have this open forum to share with the public and also like everyone in this virtual room in terms of how well we've been doing this. And basically, this is also a key drive for existing our governments as a key initiative, how to apply different technologies to help improve our society to answer different social challenge and social issues. So without further ado, we're trying to bring Lamia on board as well to quickly share, and then I would take the second half. And after that, we would do an open discussion forum just to share about our questions and to answer your inquiries as well. So during the time, I know you may have a lot of other questions. We encourage you to use the chat box functions, and also while the people in the room together in this hall with us, you are free to raise the questions at the end of the sections. So we will answer one by one later on. So thanks for your collaborations. And right now, let me invite Lamia to the stage.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. So just before we begin, let me introduce myself by way of background. I am Lamia, and I am a Juris Doctor graduate from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And I have actually like a legal background, but I started my own startup 2 years ago, which mainly focuses on blind people, people who are visually impaired. We also call them VIPs. So whenever I'm talking about VIPs, I'm not talking about important people, but I'm talking about visually impaired people. And I'll go by story as to how and why I started this organization and what we've been up to and what we have created for assistive technology today, which is very important for one of the most marginalized and overlooked communities in any place in the world. Yeah, you have the part. So by way of introduction again, I started Seekr 2 years ago when the pandemic was at its peak. For example, in rural areas of Hong Kong, like Tim Tsui Wai, I remember I was like one of the frontliners who was distributing care packages, and we had elderly people in this specific building who told me that NGOs were swamped with work and they didn't have anyone that they could reach out to because their carers, their primary carers were practicing social distancing. And some of them told me that had I not come with a package of food, they would be starving for like 3 or 4 days. And that really got me thinking. I was like, oh my God, for blind people, there's really not much out there apart from traditional facilities to actually get them to move independently. They were very reliant on others, which is the first main pain point. Second, it's very difficult for them to navigate new spaces. For example, imagine getting onto a lift, but the lift doesn't have an audio as to which floor you're going to get off, so on and so forth. Also, if you look at existing technologies today, right, like what are the existing technologies for blind people? Do you guys have any, like, on the top of your head, what do blind people most commonly use? Yeah, canes. But if you realize for canes, right, they only detect objects from the waist below. What about objects that are on top? There's no way they can figure that out. And another thing is, there are a lot of apps that detect, like, for example, what is in front of you. But then for them to use those apps, they need to know which position the object is placed in the first place. So that's very difficult. It's like you're asking them to already have in their head a map of what their surrounding looks like. So there's nothing in the market that addresses their specific concerns. And in addition, every time you use an app, there is at least 10 to 15 seconds of advertisement. So the advertisement runs because obviously they want to monetize their app, but not take money from the VIPs. But that really does disturb a lot of the users. So when we look at the problem in Hong Kong, right, we're talking about 200,000 people who are visually impaired in Hong Kong. And this number is actually expected to triple globally, where the numbers are increasing either due to malnutrition, so on and so forth, or even something as basic as aging. As you're aging, your visual sight is, it's bound to go to gradually decrease. And in particular to Hong Kong, the Hong Kong economy loses $440 million because of this inaccessibility issue. So then I was like, okay, what can we do now? So we wanted to create a solution for them, but with them. So we conducted like a lot of focus groups, and they told us, oh, we do not want a bulky medical looking device. We don't want to be like, stigmatized. In addition, we want something that could help us create and give us a simultaneous interpretation of the environment and increase accessibility and reduce codependence. So that's how we created Seekr. So Seekr is the first of its kind compact minimalistic wearable. What you have to do is you wear it on your chest, and with any bone conducting earpiece, headphones, whatever, you can actually, the device will take a screenshot of the area that you're in and then interpret the spatial information to you, no matter what language. For example, in Hong Kong, most typically people speak Cantonese, Mandarin. We have those language abilities, and of course, English. So yeah, what makes Seekr so different is that it's really like very easy to use. You can clip it on to any piece of clothing. VIPs can use it in their daily life, and it's a hands-free experience. For example, if they still want to use their cane, they can still go ahead and use their cane. If they still want to use guide dogs, they can still use guide dogs. Actually, another question. Any idea how many guide dogs there are in Hong Kong? Just throw in a number. No. So somebody in the participant just said 100. No, a lot less. Do you want to give it another go?
30.
30? Okay, close. There are about 40 guide dogs, but there are 200,000 visually impaired people. And then a lifespan of a dog, and in terms of training, let's talk about training. It takes about 1 to 2 years to train a guide dog. And then you have to take care of it, you have to feed it, it takes up space. So you can see how there is almost not really much going on for the VIP community. So that's why technology is such an important for them. Right.
Sorry. Go back.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a standalone wearable, right? And it's very simple. Whatever the device is capturing on the chest, it has an phone app running along. So the information is actually interpreted by the phone, feed back to the device, and then you can hear it through your voice. And also another thing about it is it's very user friendly because it offers features, for example, object detection, text recognition, and navigation. These are the 3 features, and I'm more than happy to show you how that works in a video later on. But these are the core 3 features that was requested by the VIPs, and we were able to sort of leverage our technology experts to build that. So when we talk about navigation, right, like a lot of the times people tell us public transportation is one of the most inaccessible because, for example, when they want to get off a train or get off buses, they actually have somebody physically come out of the bus, put something like a glider for them to like either go down, which is for the wheelchair people. But for blind people, they're often pushed. They're pushed into the bus, pushed out of the bus, and it's a very uncomfortable experience. So what we tell them through our devices, for example, when their bus arrives, and then to get on the bus when it's their turn, how far someone is in front of them, like 1 meter away, 0.1 meter away, so on and so forth. And then we also help them navigate spaces. So navigate spaces, we're talking about outdoor, let's say, if you want to go to park and shop, any supermarket, it'll tell you how to get there and also interpret some of those things for you. Another thing that they do is, menus and stuff, they read it off for you it's just to incorporate in their daily life to make sure that information is given to them as accurately as possible, and they have a visual map of their surrounding in their heads so that it's easier for them to navigate. Can we have a video, please? Yeah. So here's the device working when navigating a new space. Yeah. Just a click of a button.
Meeting room A.
And it tells a meeting room A is in front of them. So how does the object detection work? So you open the door, you're in a new place, and there's like a lot of people, you don't know what's where.
Laptop TV present keyboard.
It tells you what is in front. So here's another example of the supermarket setting, how it would be done.
Tesco cheese and broccoli pasta mild and creamy.
Try again.
Apple orange.
So it's like something very similar in terms of like circular objects. It's able to.
Banana apple orange 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 orange.
Yeah, those.
A 菇汁西班牙豚肉漢堡半焦糖幫。
So what you saw over there is it trying to read a bilingual menu. So this is how we've put up basic features up for VIPs to use. And the visual assistive market in Hong Kong is quite unique because with the number of aging population, it's about like 5.2 million, 2 billion. And there's like a lot of more than 50% of the population is actually aging. And you can see that our device, we have premium version and a basic version. The features that I showed you are our basic version, but then for example, certain corporates would want like a particular premium feature. So we could actually build that up for them and then, sell that to them. Make sure that VIPs are, well placed in their organizations, as well as in line with their D&I initiatives. And as also a way of, supporting sustainable cities and smart cities being built. So when we started, right, our first entry point was all the NGOs. So we've acquired our first onboarders from organizations like the Hong Kong Blind Union, Hong Kong Society for the Blind, and also like Dignity Kitchen, which is like operated by visually impaired people who offer catering services. And altogether, we've amassed like 70,000 people to be our first onboarders for this. And we're running like trial and focus groups with them. And so this is our entry. And so now I just want to briefly talk about what sets Seekr apart. Now, there are, as you might be aware, a lot of technology to help with the VIPs. One of the most notable ones were like, for example, in Israel, there's My Eye 2.0, which is like a glass. There are apps like AI guided, and there's also apps like TapTapSee. What makes Seekr different is within the price range, because a lot of the VIPs are not so well off economically. We're offering them all of these features in such a discreet and compact wearable, and it's very friendly, user friendly, and customer centric. Like I said, we started our company 2 years ago from ideation, prototype development with some of the major universities like HKUST, HKU, my alumnus organization, and also so far at this moment, we are just trying to establish local channels to distribute our devices, making sure that VIPs are well incorporated, well included in society. So these are some of the awards that we've won. Of course, the list is long, so just some of the notable ones. And we're a team of 4. So as you can see, we are a very, very diverse team. Turzo, our CEO, is actually Bangladeshi. Kartike, product designer, actually works for Lalamu, one of the biggest transport companies in Hong Kong. And he's from India. I'm Lamia. I'm the COO of Seekr. By background, as I said, I'm a Juris Doctor graduate, and I've had 5 years of experience running startups, social startups especially. And then we have Reno, our hardware designer, who's from Indonesia. What makes us a very unique team is most of us are born and raised in Hong Kong. It's a Hong Kong story, you know, the diverse and multiculturalism that is Hong Kong. And we have Professor Tristan Broad as our advisor. But in addition, actually, Ernest is our mentor. So Ernest was one of our early stage mentors, still is mentoring us. So we're very, very glad to have him on board. And that is Seekr. So we are Seekr, your visual companion, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
So thanks, Longy, for a great sharing. Just a reminder to all the audience on the Zoom link. So there's a Seekr, the link in. So feel free to follow them. And also, if you have any questions or later on, you can also ask today or later on, like we would have sections with Longy or something. So right now, I will also do a quick personal sharing. My own assistive technologies, how to apply gaming. So I guess we can just quickly ask a quick question to the audience, like how many of you guys on your mobile phone right now has at least one game applications? Please raise your hand. Yes, thanks everyone. So almost everyone in physical in Hong Kong, they raised their hands. So here I want to bring you as a quick finding, because in Hong Kong, I think not just in Hong Kong, actually, most people right now on the world are very obsessed with gaming. And actually, it's one of the biggest, I would say, industrial growing right now, if you're looking at our stock market. So here's one cool applications that we come up with. What happens if gaming is not just bringing for fun, but also at the same time, it can also help people and heal people, or at least to educate people. So this is why we found Acer. It's a AR VR gaming social enterprise that we started 10 years ago. And right now we've been acquired different customers and have a lot of different use cases and applications. So today from this sections, I want to share about is on gaming, how we're able to turn into as an assistive technologies to help people in need, and also how we can able to build an inclusive societies. I think it's quite similar to what Lemmy been doing. It's not just about doing a thing just for people in need, but also like how overall we're able to help people integrate to society and help them to unlock the potential. That is what we've been doing. So as a quick introduction, right now we've been serving over 500,000 families and also people, individuals, in terms of how we apply gaming to help them to learn and help them to acquire important and essential life skills. So a quick landscape in terms of what we're doing. Our partner is not just with special schools here in Hong Kong. We're also working with hospitals, and in some areas, maybe you heard about hospital schools, that would be more targets, and also elsewhere, like there are a lot of people who have particular special needs or rehab needs. That would be our target as well. And with Catalyst 2030, we're also trying to bring some of our games to our network partners for different branches or districts. And luckily, we not just working with NGOs, we've been also like working with different universities together to ensure our gaming reach professional standards. So that's why when we're doing our games, we're trying to not just gamify some sort of repetitive training. That's what people with special needs and rehab the most need, is because practice makes perfect, but practice is boring. So how we make that boring practice into fun and and people enjoy that approach. We unlock it with games. And second is like we work with a lot of universities to collect data for them to research and also make sure like the data being trained, and we later on able to adopt it to build like professional found research methodologies that are able to not just apply to people in Hong Kong, but apply to the rest of the world and to serve a bigger audience. And also we put the design around those people needs in terms of, let's say we have some sort of gaming that we'll show later on that children have mobility issues on wheelchair and also with very weak mobilities in terms of how we apply eye tracking technologies as a game to help them to facilitate for them to learn. And so in short, these are like right now our partnership scope. And also if you're watching right now, we hope to later on to seek potential partnership together with you, how we bring our gaming, not just in Hong Kong, but also to bring to your doors, bring to your districts, and bring to your countries. And today I know like maybe we don't have a lot of time, so I would just selectively share some of our practice on our games, how we able to help. So number one is on AR. I guess it's not that popular before this Pokemon Go gaming, but augmented reality actually happens to be one of the most, I would say, visual technologies that are able to trigger or help a lot of people, especially for people with autism, attention disorder, and also people learning mostly through visuals. So in terms of our number one, it's when we first start, we do this playbook. This playbook is targeted for children with autism. And so when we're talking about people with autism, it's kind of common that in general, how we define that is general people with lack of fear of mind. They don't really able to understand, or you find them like socially awkward because they don't really get used or integrate to society when they have communication problems. So when you're nodding your head or showing them like your smiles, or when you're crying, they just simply don't get it, because not because they intend to, it's just because they couldn't comprehend what that kind of crying or smiling, that kind of emotion means. So it's go without saying that it's when they later on go out to society or when they go to schools, they're usually being blamed. It's like, oh, why don't you listen to what people said, or why don't you, like socially interact to make friends, etc. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they couldn't. So when we thinking of that, following that logic, what are the existing ways to help them? There are like a lot of like boring visual cues, as when we're talking about visual cues, like mostly cue cards, you're able to show them like, oh, these are the cards. When you seeing them, people smiling on the cards, and then you have to react, meaning they're happy. And then so you can, reply or respond with another smile. But that kind of things is like, traditionally, it's kind of not that effective anymore, because we have a lot of televisions, we have a lot of mobile device, a lot of different games. So that kind of visual stimulation based support prompts is not that effective anymore. It's actually scientifically proven that kind of effectiveness with video modeling or visual cue cards are dropping. So what are the new technologies we can bring that attention up? So that's why we invent this kind of augmented reality based playbook. We're turning those like abstract emotions into 3D animations and stories. So when people reading this book with parents and also with counselors or with a therapist, it's easier for them to turn that kind of emotions, abstract ideas into 3D animations, interactive storylines. So based on the clicks, we're able to understand, oh, how well they interact with those kind of like characters, whether they're able to understand that kind of what the emotions are, whether they're able to reply or respond on their personal settings. So this is what the AR playbook on existing technologies can do as a visual communication tools. And based on that, we launched our second phase. This time, we're not just dealing with children with autism, we're dealing with general like people with mental challenge. Because a similar approach, they follow that kind of list-perm hierarchy is kind of like a supportive theory or framework for people in special schools. So we're turning this into basically as a 3D animations to teach them like 9 different basic life skills in Hong Kong. So from like brushing the teeth, and also like going down to like how to take a minibus back to home or to schools, and also like how to go to toilet. This kind of like essential life skills. Maybe it sounds so simple for every one of us, but not that easy for people with autism or mental challenge, because usually this kind of curriculum go down to their 12 or even like you can see 18-year-old kids that with this kind of like mental challenge, they're not able to capture it. And it's also difficult for teachers in special school to teach, especially, let's say right now we are short on teachers. And imagine like if our teacher is like, it's a female, how are you able to articulate and show that kind of embarrassing moment to a boy, how they're going to pee or poop? It's difficult, right? Especially you have to show them like all the steps after they close the door. And you can't teach them if they're not closing the door, because it's another sort of awkward scenarios, right? So with this kind of latest technology, we have to show them step by step how well you can do it, how you can able to follow the step by steps, and also like integrate it to society. Yeah, and then we have some other tools, skip, and some other social skills scanning. And other than that, not just autism and mental challenge, we also dealing with children with hearing disabilities. And so this is a quick video. Oh, can you turn off the video so I can? Turn off.
No sound.
Yeah. So this kind of is a learning toolkit. Because in Hong Kong right now we are pretty lucky medical advancement, but still every year we have around 70 newborn babies. They're born without normal ears, and quickly they can do a surgery. But that hearing abilities would maximum restore back to 70%. So that's why it's like sign language is still important for them and as well as their family to learn to communicate efficiently. And right now we've been doing a lot of other research in terms of how we apply this kind of sign language for children with autism as well, which in theory, like every 50 children or students, that with one will be autism. So by applying this kind of like sign language toolkits, we're able to practice sign language and also to able to improve their social skills as well. Okay, and then we go on to another kind of technology, which is like virtual realities. Virtual reality is, I guess, it's not a strangers to people in this call, but we are more dealing with empathy training that we work with a lot of non-profit organizations and also like universities. How we apply virtual reality to develop empathy, because empathy by science is not something you can just tell them articulate like, oh, put someone else into someone else's shoes. It's not that easy when it's like kind of talking, because you don't have that experience. You can't expect like people like, oh, when I'm sharing my feelings to you, you're able to, like feel the same as me. And so what can we do to bring people to really develop that kind of empathy, to build that kind of like social inclusion? So that's why we developed some sort of VR programs that when people like wearing a headset, exactly similarly, how when we're talking about like elderly loneliness, what does it look like? How do we feel about it? What are the general difficulties, especially like people in wheelchair, people with also mental challenge or other like psychological problems, how they're going to feel that. With VR, they're able to effectively bring that kind of education to society. We run through like different community programs to bring the technologies in, and also like for people like in society to feel, oh, that's the difficulties, to basically, especially to schools, that we bring the students on the same understanding level. This is like, you don't need to, like be an elderly to understand how elderly feel. Right now with VR, you're able to articulate and feel that. And also it would be a training tools. And when we're talking about training tools, this was one of the examples that we collaborated with one of the universities to develop VR therapies for people with social anxiety disorder. And actually it's common in terms of every 20 university students, there were one suffering from social anxiety disorder. It's actually that number is climbing because of COVID, that the school being suspension, and also a lot of people having difficulties going back to normal life to, directly talking to people to face. And especially why it's in university is because on puberty, a lot of hormones will change. And so by science, around 100, there is actually one working people suffering from social anxiety that stop them from working normally, and also like maybe the later on like going back to home and never go out to work again. That's also lost to workforce. And so by applying this kind of virtual reality program, we do shoot in VR dimensions on those 6 most common social anxiety scenarios, like interviews, presentations, and we develop like programs that when you're wearing like a heartbeat or like a Fitbit sensor, we're able to sense whether you feel or your blood pressure, whether it goes up or down, to justify whether you basically overcome that kind of social anxiety scenarios. And this kind of data would feed back to universities for research, and also to justify the person's, besides traditional like talk therapy or how have you been doing that kind of talk, we're able to bring you to an immersive experience, and also with like that kind of biological data, we're able to justify like how well you've been going through that program and what's the experience you have. And the data eventually would record back, and also to improve the existing training and also therapeutical settings. So that's what technology right now we can do, and also how well we've been using it. And another one is on education as well. It's on AED. So AED is like a kind of like a mechanical machines that in case of people like faint out, and then the most important thing is like you need like that kind of AED machines to bump his heartbeat, so we bring him back to life. And that kind of entire exercise is do it as soon as possible. Usually we give the time is like 5 minutes. That's a golden time for you to bring up people like in the coma back to life. And this kind of like machine is actually attached to our hospital authority network. So that's why it's difficult for you to, use it in a live case. But then we develop as a mixed reality gaming that you do it virtually after you wear that kind of like HoloLens glasses. And then it's popping up like 3D figures. And then we train in the game like in 2 minutes, whether you're able to follow the steps and do everything correctly to save the person's life. So all this kind of games, maybe we're not showing the clips right now. It's going to take some time, but another gaming is on the VR speech sensors. It's basically what you see is basically what you're able to articulate, and then we, based on the AI, to tell you whether you're able to identify the objects as a speech training. And that's some of the projects we've been doing with other universities. So I would skip this one, doing quite a lot. And I don't want to skip this one. It's kind of a latest invention we're doing with Consumer Council, which is a government organization agent as well. And how we do it, it's like, this is also including for people with autism, and also like for traditional like training. Because in Hong Kong, I think every year we have at least 50 cases of being reported of like kind of like sales traps, especially deal with people with autism. And in Hong Kong by law, as long as you're over 16-year-old, you're able to make, and as an adult, you can make your own purchase decisions. And what those most common cases of those 50 cases about people with autism is that they've been forced or engaged in aggressive selling. That if they're engaged in that kind of like gym or like beauty centers, they've been forced to buy like really expensive package. That's we're talking about at least $100,000 US for one package. That's most severe cases that those autism people like not able to get rid of, and then they just have been forced to pay. And so that kind of like scenarios like about how we're able to educate the people not to fall for those sales traps. And those with this VR technologies, gaming, we're able to educate those people like, oh, don't fall for that trap. How well you've been doing it. Instead of like traditional, like you just go out to have this kind of talk, we're able to bring you an immersive experience to deal with it. So we have other sort of technologies that to deal with inclusiveness, and also like for training. So I'm going to share every single details. And here's like coming to another part is for bigger or younger adult. Because for special needs people, and one of the challenges is like difficult to find jobs for them. And luckily in Hong Kong, one of the job that you didn't expect would be like going to be a tree assessor. And when we're talking a tree assessor is like literally just go out and to identify like those urban trees, what kind of like tree hazard they would have. Because in Hong Kong for the past at least 1 year or 2 years, we are very going to hit severely by the typhoons. And also like there will be quite a few fatal accidents that the tree falls and then it hits someone and causing casualties. And so that's why it's becoming like a job that the government needs. It's like having a tree assessors. And that would not require like you to complete like a university degree. But just like you need to be a tree assessor, understand the basic, like how you assess a tree. And we turn it into games for people in special schools that for the games, they're able to know how to do like observations on the trees and also fill in the hazard reports and send back to the government as that kind of reports. And it's actually a job for them to help identify like what are the potential tree hazards, and that job is paid to the government. And also it helps protect and secure the city as a safe city for people to travel. So this is like one of the most basic game tools we developed for people in needs. So altogether, we have all different kind of gamings that we're able to help. And also this one I would, as a closing remarks, is one of another skill set is in Hong Kong, we have also this kind of recreational centers or like sports centers that you have to reach a minimum number of instructors. And so you're able to open your centers available for students, youth, or public to come in and pay for playing that kind of climbing games or playing the sports facilities. And we're doing this kind of like mobile game apps. It's like for those children with special needs that they can able to capture or easier to pass those kind of instructor exams. And all the gaming design is based on that kind of instructor examinations. So once they finish or complete the gaming, and it's almost equivalent those kind of like gaming questions or question set that they need to obtain as an instructors. And so it's easier to pass exam and it's easier for them to plan for their career ahead. Yeah, and so these are some of the medical games that we do for people with asthma. And so it's still like one of the most effective stories is like the most practical and effective way is to apply steroids for children with asthma. But as everyone knows, steroids is not always the most welcoming solutions as parents, because including myself as well, because steroids actually have quite a few side effects. It's making your skin's like also like thinner, and also like later on it has very strong side effects like you would have a chubby face or moon face that is so called, and it's easier for people to develop obesity. So that would be other health concerns. So that's why applying the appropriate amount of steroids is important for people having asthma. But at the same time, in Hong Kong, I think at least we have around 20 casualties every year that people are not applying the right amount of steroids, that leading to severe asthmas and which result in death issues. So with this kind of like gaming mechanism, we gamified the reporting lines in terms of justified like the amount of steroids they individually need to apply on a daily or regular basis. And with that, it's actually the data sent back to the hospitals. And so the doctors, it will be easier to justify their judgment about the amount of steroids that need to apply on individuals. So all together, we have quite a bit of other solutions on Chinese dyslexia. Also one of the gaming technologies that right now we've been discussing with our Catalyst members in Pakistan and also Indonesia, how we're turning into some sort of like artifacts or creations from our kids and youth, and also like in Hong Kong with special schools students to create some sort of artifacts to tell our stories as our tourism gift, and later maybe it can be put on the Catalyst market as well. So that would be my sharing today. Without further ado, I don't want to take so much of your time, but these are some of the interactive games. But all in all, I want to bring it into a conclusion just for today. Let me see if there's a conclusion. As I think it's like technology advancing every day. Right now we have ChatGPT, we have gamings. That would be like an AI solution from Seekr that how you convert your visually insight data into a kind of informations to blind people. So altogether, I think we are all learning in terms of how we need different data, different inputs, different use case every day to help people actually meet and become like a practical solutions for them to help them integrate back to society. Because for inclusive society, it's not just the technology side, but also about how big the dream we all dream about. So it's about hard work. It's about definitely a lot of technology inventions we need to think of. But most importantly, I think it's like the dream together, how big we dream about it. And so we're able to think of those ideas and turning those ideas into concrete plans to execute and to make it as a livable business together. So that's the sharing of today. And right now, I think we are able to open the floor if you have any questions or such. But thanks for your time. So let's say maybe we can turn on the chat box to see if any other questions. Oh, here, thank you. And also we can bring Lemia back. All right, let's see if we have any questions.
You want to sit? It's all right.
It's all right.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it's okay. We can just sit.
Yeah.
That's what we need to fine tune the camera again.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think there's any questions.
I just want to.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think the business side, the social enterprise side here, Seekr is very great.
Yeah.
And how do you maintain the cost and the expenses for balance your
Right.
corporate?
Okay. Sorry, please repeat it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let me repeat the questions. So there's a question from the floor. It's about how we're able to maintain or balance the cost and also the social benefits. That would be a challenging question.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for that question. In fact, when we started off early on, because whenever you're going to investors, what they look for is a hardware device or something to show for. But in the initial days, we didn't even have the capital to make that, right? So a couple of me and my co-founders, we were actually bootstrapping. We were taking on different jobs. I was doing legal internships, and whatever I was getting, I was throwing it back at the company. And in terms of like cost for the company, right? Hong Kong actually is quite a great place to have a startup because there's so much funding available. Because first of all, Hong Kong people are quite open to technology. And what that means is there's actually a lot of funding for technology, especially for marginal people who are from marginalized communities. The Hong Kong government actually has a subsidy scheme of about $40,000 for each person who is differently able. Like you could be someone who's using a wheelchair, you could be someone who might have visual, or even you could be someone who's hard of hearing. And the government wants to give them and make sure that they are integrated into society. So each of them have $40,000 to buy whatever technology device. So that's what we encourage the VIPs to use that funding to buy the device, because our device is priced at like about $5,000. And average Google Glass, if you just search it, is at 40,000 Hong Kong dollars. That's a lot of money. VIPs that work on average make about less than $20,000 in Hong Kong. So how does one afford such technology, and that too with maintenance and so on and so forth? So our main profits, of course, apart from selling the device, it comes from the funding and grants that are available. Yeah, so that's how we're doing it. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yeah, and then right now we got another questions from the chat group. So the question is about, she's curious about the user testing process. I think it's also target for Seekr as well. It's basically asking like how you're able to gather all the users
Yeah.
to confirm like your program is effective.
So the way we did it was, when we touched base with some of the people that we already knew. For example, our CEO, Turzo's grandfather is visually impaired and he had friends. So when we started off, we got them in a circle and they told us the problem. And we're like, okay, what do you want and what do you need? And then we actually bought the devices. For example, we got canes, we even tried, we got a guide dog for a day, and we tried out everything. We're like, okay, what is the problem with each and every one of them? And then that's how we came up with the solution. We built it with them. Every time we had a product, because we've had 3 iterations of the product. And with every iteration, there's like comments on the look, the comments on the size, comments on the features itself, like specific features that they wanted. Like for example, do you have any idea how blind people actually differentiate color? Do you have any idea? I mean, so the traditional way they do it is through buttons. So for example, circular button will be the color of red, square button would be the color of green and something like that. So these type of issues where they would say, oh, every day before I go out, I don't know which socks, whether the colors of my socks match. So these type of like very in-depth information is from the focus groups that we created. And obviously, you know, with any marginalized community, you have to gain their trust. They have to be open enough to tell you what their problem is. So it took us a year to build that trust with our current partnering organizations, and therefore we know what the problem is because it's directly from them, and we know the solution will work is because we built it with them. Yeah. So thank you for the question.
Cool. Yeah. Just to add on, I think as you might know, like for I think it's like a lesson learned when we first start or start any sort of business and also a kind of like a service. It's better to do a stakeholder mapping. And when we talk about stakeholder mapping, is like not just like putting like people of blind. I think it's also like looking into Lamia is like very successful in terms of she identified like all the non-profit organizations, all the social groups who've been dealing with the blind. So let's say in Hong Kong, usually the blind lining up together is like a society and NGO that they form together, or people dedicated to serve this kind of people. So once you map that out, what kind of NGOs, what are the stakeholders, and then it's easier for you to recruit the tester. So I think it's a basic social sort of understanding before they start a business, and in terms of before just jumping into the solutions like this would work. I think it's like a lot of hard work and testing as well.
So I mean, just to add on, we like with the 2 years of us being in operations, we've successfully conducted 100 focus groups, and each focus group consisting from as number as small as 10 to as large as 50. So that's how we've been building our devices to make sure that it's very user-centric. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
How do you keep your creativity? Because I see your more than 50 to 40 or 60 ideas in your company. So how do you keep your problem solving skills, design thinking skills, or creativity?
Thanks for the question. So another questions from the floor is like how I'm able to generate that kind of creativeness. I think it's for myself. I think it's really think from the people around me. I think similar to what Lamia is like, and her partner like Turso is like her grandfather. I mean, his grandfather is like a blind, and while like for myself, I actually have a different story. I like to observe people, and especially I like to identify the social gaps. So when I first like maybe work on special schools, actually I learned it's not just about people are special needs students. It's like just a very generic terms. I think it's like if you look deep enough, individuals, students, they have their own different needs. So when first we approach like children with autism, later on actually you find out like, oh, autism is just not one kid. It's like the kids, it's just a generic term. Then usually they come with like communication problem with dyslexia, like social anxiety disorder. And then if you're able to like chunk that problems deep enough and take a deep look, you're able to find actually it's not just one solutions fit all. And you need to like really chunk it into smaller pieces and like a small bite to make them feel like the success is coming like from step to step. So that's why when you see was like, oh, there seems to be a lot of creative solutions. It's actually we didn't change, but it's true that even just one single person or individuals, when we call them special needs or autism, attention disorder, whatever, it's actually he has more than just one solutions needed. He needs a lot of diverse of solutions. And actually that's the beauty of, I think, in youth work or educations or rehab, is because it also helped me to grow and also my team to grow, to learn, oh, one day maybe you just resolve his problems at one point, but actually not one solutions fit all. And when he later on, even the same person going to toilet, going on different occasions, going to work on different like stages, they all need different things. And I think it's like if you take a deep look and then you think about or design the solutions around that person, and then it's true beauty for you to find out, oh, that's like maybe the most pain point he has, and then you develop a solution for him just to answer for that. So I think it's like for me, I would still say I'm quite how to say, like humble to say like we are not solving the solutions for all. We are just solving it like bite by bit, small pieces. But I feel like that kind of steps or actions needed because someone still take a first step and then to align or draw people like-minded together, like Lamia together, and then we able to solve that problem together. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So I hope there will be no other questions. And so thanks everyone for joining today's sessions. And just a reminder, we will have our Hong Kong pre-launch tomorrow at 1 hour later, which is 7:30 Hong Kong time, and which you can refer to our poster, and hope we will be able to see you again tomorrow. So thanks for your time and enjoy your nice day or evening. So thanks everyone. Thank you.